On our wedding anniversary, my husband's personal cell phone wouldn't stop ringing. He repeatedly ignored the calls, his face grim, but never turned the phone off. When the ringtone sounded for the 11th time, I stood up. Marcus stood up with me, a flicker of panic in his eyes. Grace, I smiled, cutting him off, I'm just going to wash my hands. My gaze, however, swept past him to the vibrating, illuminated phone on the sofa. This time, he would definitely answer. I turned on the faucet. Amidst the running water, his deliberately hushed voice drifted from beneath the door. I told you not to call me today. I'm with her. Where should I pick you up? I have so many drivers, why call me? You're back in the country? His voice suddenly rose. Then, footsteps slowly approached the bathroom, paused for a few seconds, then retreated. Apparently convinced I hadn't noticed, he began to coax her softly, his voice helpless yet laced with indulgence. Running off this far alone, why didn't you tell me sooner? Stop crying. He was silent for a moment, then finally relented. Find a warm place and wait. I'm coming now. I slowly washed my hands, rinsing off the foam, watching it disappear down the dark drain with the water. He was probably afraid I'd stop him. When I opened the door, he was already gone. Only a note remained on the dining table. Grace, there's a sudden issue with a company project. I'm going to check on it. I'll definitely be back before midnight. Below it, a line of text was scrawled deeply. I love you. A jewelry box was placed on top of it. I opened it to find the vintage sapphire and diamond bracelet I'd lingered over at the auction. 20 million. He certainly wasn't cheap. I suddenly remembered my bag was still in his car. Inside was a newly purchased AirTag. I activated the tracker and followed it all the way to the airport. Marcus pulled over, rolled down the window, and lit a cigarette. His jawline was rigid, one hand resting on the window frame as he exhaled smoke. His relaxed, self-assured demeanor drew frequent glances from passers-by. A luxury car. A sophisticated man. Hands with clearly defined knuckles. And a luxury timepiece worth millions on his wrist. But most striking of all, was the beautiful young woman, standing on tiptoe, leaning into the window, kissing him passionately. She looked as if she was about to climb into the car. Marcus's hand, still holding the cigarette, was cupping the back of her head, the flickering glow making my eyes sting. Who could imagine, Marcus, who was almost 40, was still capable of such youthful romantic gestures as openly kissing a mistress on a snowy night? Perhaps the girl was tired, she pulled back, stamping her foot playfully. Her actions were affected, but he clearly fell for it. Marcus, cigarette still in his mouth, got out of the car. He took her hand, and with the other, put her luggage in the trunk. The girl clung to his arm. He impatiently finished his last puff, then tossed the cigarette butt to the ground and crushed it with his foot. Then, he abruptly pressed her against the car and the wall. His hand reached familiarly inside her coat. The girl shivered, her hands, soft as silk, wrapped around his neck. Marcus squeezed her buttocks hard twice, frowned, and muttered something. The girl pouted. He urged her into the car. Then, he sped away. I silently put away my phone recording. I watched the watermelon plushie I'd bought, visible in Marcus's car window, slowly shrink into the distance. No one knew. I had waited 10 years for this moment. It was already 11:40 when I got home. After standing for a moment, I turned and locked the door. The next morning, my notification bar was empty. With his beauty by his side, Marcus couldn't even bother to call me back. It was the outcome I had imagined, yet my heart still ached deeply. I went to the door to retrieve a package. As soon as I opened the door, a figure stumbled inside. Marcus was still wearing the same clothes from last night, his face etched with the irritability of someone who hadn't slept. I froze. What are you doing here? He rubbed his temples, his voice hoarse. Why was the door locked? I thought you weren't coming back. He looked as if he'd heard an absurd joke. Where else would I go if I didn't come back here? Then he tilted his head, looking at me, and asked tentatively, Are you angry? I didn't say anything. He seemed at a loss with me, giving a helpless smile before leaning down to kiss the top of my head. I sat by the door all night last night, my feet were numb from the cold. A project is just a project, nothing is more important than you, Grace. He casually tossed his overcoat into the laundry hamper, then gestured with his chin towards the bracelet on the kitchen counter, smiling like a teenager vying for attention. Do you like it? It was just delivered to the office yesterday. Good thing it wasn't late, or I wouldn't know how to atone. I looked up at him. Marcus had maintained his physique and appearance exceptionally well. In his youth, he was bright and handsome. Now, he had an added softness and composure from years of experience. His business partner, Ethan, had teased him more than once, men get more attractive with age. Marcus, you old diamond peacock, who knows how many young girls' hearts you'll break. TSK, Grace, you'd better treat him well, or he'll still be strong and virile, and you'll become his discarded wife. Marcus laughed, playfully punched him, and called him an animal. Ethan's wife, Sarah, also said he was talking nonsense. Mr. Marcus loves his wife to death, don't spread rumors here. I had believed it too. That we, who had sworn to overcome difficulties together, would spend the rest of our lives hand in hand. But now, looking at it, sure enough, men understand men best. I touched the bracelet and smiled, really? You went through a lot of trouble. It's for Grace, what silly things are you sayin'? Gee? He pulled me close, nuzzling his head into the crook of my neck, playfully. I'm so tired, Grace. But I'm willing to earn money for you to spend. He then took the bracelet and held it against my wrist a few times. I knew this color would suit you. Wear this to the year-end gala, Ethan's wife will definitely be green with envy. He had a triumphant look. Just like that look he gave me, drenched in sweat, across the crowd after sinking a buzzer beater in a college basketball game years ago. My heart suddenly ached. The pain was so intense I couldn't breathe. My ears rang. A heavy, sinking pain. I forced it down. Blood seemed to rush backward to my heart. I pressed hard against the corner of the table, the sharp pain forcing me to stay calm. Then go take a shower and get some rest. He yawned, nodded, and went upstairs. Halfway up, he turned back. His deep-set eyes reflected my small silhouette. He smiled, his voice tender and desperately loving. I almost forgot to say, Grace, happy 15th anniversary. I will always love you. I watched his back disappear at the top of the stairs. Finally, like someone nearly drowning surfacing for air, I leaned on the table and gasped. Who would see that act and suspect he had already cheated? Through blurred vision, I saw his phone on the table. Still no password. I opened the call history. The 11 incoming calls had been cleanly deleted. Then I opened various messaging apps. Group chats and project records were all there, with matching timestamps. Even the smart doorbell camera had captured everything clearly. At 12:05, he rushed out of the elevator, tried his fingerprint several times without success, then sighed and crouched by the door. His act was flawless. I stared at that footage for a long time, truly unable to understand, what was he really after? So impatient at the airport, yet he returned to play the devoted husband? In the middle of the night, in sub-zero temperatures, did he really wait outside all nig? HT? Repentance? Self-punishment? And that girl. She looked so familiar. Who was she? Her familiar figure, the delicate chin beneath her hood, the way she leaned against the car window. I suddenly snapped back to reality. I had seen her before. A year ago. One time, Marcus came home from a night run, covered in mud. The cut on his left arm was gushing blood, he needed 12 stitches. My heart ached so much I started crying. But he just said he fell because he couldn't see the road clearly. When I asked again, he became impatient. On the way home, as the car passed the neighborhood gate, a girl in a security uniform suddenly rushed up, anxiously tapping on the driver's side window. I rolled down the window, and she froze. Then she saw Marcus, his injury bandaged, in the passenger seat, and her eyes instantly welled up. She bowed 90 degrees, sobbing an apology. I'm so sorry, Mr. Marcus. It's my fault. If it weren't for you, I might have. Sob. Deduct all my medical expenses from my salary, thank you for saving me. The property manager stood behind her, also bowing an apology. Chloe said she provoked a resident's German and accidentally caused your injury while you were passing by. We will handle this appropriately, we are very sorry. I was stunned and looked at Marcus. He had been afraid of dogs since childhood. Especially a powerful German. He actually dared to rush in to save someone? The girl kept her head down, her low ponytail hanging meekly to one side, making her appear even more pitiful. Marcus gave her a cold glance, then looked away. Forget it. It's not a big deal. Just as I started the car, he suddenly spoke again. The work arrangement is unreasonable. The property management should bear the main responsibility. Understood, Mr. Marcus. Don't worry, the property management will cover the losses. Chloe won't have to pay. In the rearview mirror, her slender figure grew smaller and smaller. I tilted my head to look at him, half joking. What's th? Air to be embarrassed about telling me you saved a damsel in distress? He quirked his lips, teasing me, afraid someone would get jealous. He rested one hand on the car window, letting the cold air flow into the car. His voice was so soft it seemed to dissipate with the wind. The young girl was crying so hard, anyone would have helped her. A few months later, Miss Chloe resigned from her position at the property management. I never saw her again. Until yesterday. My hands trembling, I cut off the monitor. Over the years, Marcus had no shortage of female admirers. Innocent, sexy, intelligent, aloof. He had never truly fallen for any of them. Every single one was far more accomplished than Chloe. That's why I couldn't understand why she became the special one. The one who could make Marcus, a man always in a position of power, humble himself to coax and dote on her, even risking being discovered by me just to see her. In our marriage of over a decade, Marcus and I were more a partnership of shared interests than husband and wife. He was a pragmatic adult. And a businessman. He wouldn't simply sacrifice over half of his assets for so-called love. Therefore, she must possess something he desperately needed. I had a faint suspicion. Before I could even process my emotions, my secretary called, "Ms. Grace, the project is urgent, you'll need to travel for half a month." I gave a bitter laugh. Adults don't even have time to grieve. I suppressed my emotions and instructed her to schedule an appointment with a divorce lawyer and to have someone keep a close eye on Marcus. He was meticulous, and I was certainly no less so. I just hadn't expected that during the half-month I was away, he would be even more well-behaved than when I was home. He left work on time every day, worked out, ate, and cleaned the house. On the rare occasion he socialized, he would only have a couple of drinks and then leave. He was as spotless as a model husband. It made my surveillance efforts paranoid. For my return trip, I bought a plane ticket in advance. But I still sent the original flight details to Marcus. He quickly messaged me on WeChat, "Grace, there's heavy rain tomorrow, be careful. I'll pick you up." I was about to lock my phone screen. Sarah called, "You're getting a divorce?" It wasn't surprising that she knew. As a senior partner at a top-tier law firm, news like this couldn't be kept from her. Yes. Marcus cheated on me. She didn't seem surprised, and after a moment of silence, she asked, "Do you have proof?" I shook my head, "Not enough yet. The mistress herself hasn't shown up." She said calmly, "Perfect. I have something here, listen to this." An audio recording file came through on WeChat. Circumstantial evidence isn't always useful, but it can at least help you make up your mind. I raised an eyebrow. Sarah had always thought highly of Marcus. Back when Ethan's scandalous affairs became public, Marcus was the only CEO who remained untainted. He sat next to me, glancing disdainfully at the entertainment news. "They're getting old. I'm disgusted by it and people call me henpecked." The entire internet mocked her, and Sarah became the laughingstock of socialite circles, yet she endured it and remained outwardly respectful to Ethan to this day. "You're not going to try to talk me out of it?" Sarah let out a laugh. "We're almost 80 combined, let's not bother with these annoying games anymore." I laughed aloud, feeling lighthearted for the first time in days. "Then I'll get a head start, just don't fall behind." As I arrived at the neighborhood entrance, I saw a familiar dark gray range speeding out of the gate. The At Willow. One of Marcus's current projects, still under construction, where the gate security was virtually non-existent. I drove my secretary's Porsche, and the security guards didn't even glance at me, letting me right in. Marcus drove smoothly to the prime villa in the center and stopped. I parked about 200 meters away, under the shade of the trees, and turned off the engine. I started the audio recording. After a brief static sound, Ethan's voice spoke, "You're playing a big game, aren't you?" Marcus's laugh was languid, "Nothing compared to you, young Ethan, rotating through celebrity flings. Those were business expenses. What about you?" "Grace just pawned some of her premarital assets through my brother-in-law, saying your company was in urgent need of capital, and you turn around and transfer a 30 million villa to your mistress?" The person on the other end didn't speak. Ethan paced back and forth, growing increasingly agitated. "Chloe, of all people, don't tell me you've actually fallen for her." Marcus exhaled a puff of smoke, his tone dismissive. "You really know how to talk trash. You know how much Chloe has sacrificed." At the same time, the wrought iron gate by the fountain was pushed open from the inside. Chloe, in a loose red dress, darted like a graceful sprite towards Marcus. He wrapped her in his overcoat, catching her steadily. Yet he still nervously scrutinized her, then tapped her forehead, seemingly scolding her for being so reckless. The girl giggled, wiping all her sweat onto his cashmere turtleneck sweater underneath. "A gift from me." The audio recording continued. Ethan's voice suddenly rose, "Bro. Don't be ridiculous. What has she, the mistress, sacrificed? How many years has Grace been with you?" Even the child. Bang. A heavy thud interrupted him. Like glass shattering. I froze in my seat, my hands and feet shaking uncontrollably. Like someone on trial, waiting for the blade to fall. A man's voice, all too familiar, cut through my eardrums like a sharp knife, word by word. He said, "Do I deserve this? Am I supposed to atone for a lifetime? I owe her a child, but doesn't she owe me? Doesn't she owe me?" A little over a year into our marriage, there was a period when I felt very unwell. So I took 2 days off to rest. It was Marcus insisted on dragging me to climb a wild mountain. "You're feeling sluggish because you don't exercise." As he helped me into his newly bought performance jacket, he smiled and playfully flicked my nose. "If you don't move more, you'll turn into a little pig." Back then, he championed freedom, saying he wanted to take me to see the first ray of dawn fall upon the peak. I hesitated. But then I remembered the photos he had once sent: black sunglasses, fitted tactical gear, grinning broadly in front of a vast sea of clouds. Free, handsome, and wild, like a son of the wind from Greek mythology. That was a Marcus I had never seen before. I didn't want to spoil the mood. Unfortunately, we both ran out of luck that day. He said the old path was too boring and wanted to take a new route. The result, we got lost. It started raining in the evening. I slipped and tumbled into a shallow ditch at the foot of the hillside. Warm liquid immediately gushed from my lower body. Subconsciously, I dared not look down. Marcus frantically took off his clothes to cover me, then, wearing only shorts and a tank top, rushed down the foot of the hill to find help. I became hypothermic, soaking in the cold rain and blood. When I woke up again, the surgery had already been completed. It was a rural clinic, bare and drafty. They could only save me in the most direct way. The cost was that I could no longer conceive. I was only 25, just 2 months pregnant. I couldn't bear it. I begged Marcus to divorce me. He refused to agree, no matter what. Without consulting anyone, he unilaterally underwent a vasectomy. Wearing a hospital gown, he lay by my pillow, crying and pleading with me repeatedly, "Grace, please. Don't leave me. If the child is gone, then it's gone. I only want you, Grace. I really can't live without you." His parents rushed over. The whole family knelt before my parents, begging for forgiveness. I believed him. Believed his promise: "If we divorce, I'll die." Believed his sincerity. When, while I was unconscious, he knelt at every mountain temple, his knees bruised, only to pray for my safety, I gambled on the eternity of those tears and vows. But now? I stared intensely at the two love-struck people outside the window. The suspicion in my heart finally materialized. Chloe touched her belly, and Marcus obediently half knelt, pressing close to her abdomen. The red dress outlined a slightly swollen curve. What a tender moment. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. He had actually undergone a vasectomy reversal surgery. I had secretly researched it before. After more than 10 years post-vasectomy, the chances of reversal were already negligible. For someone like Marcus, who had it done over a decade ago, it was almost zero. I had even felt relieved, and instructed my secretary to compile documents in advance, planning to apply for adoption at the orphanage. Naively ridiculous. While I was meticulously planning our future, my partner had secretly undergone surgery, I don't know how long ago, and had already found a young, fertile new womb. Only I was left cherishing memories he had discarded like old shoes. Now, my inability to bear children had become his legitimate excuse for finding a mistress? Chloe clung to Marcus, insisting he stay, and this time, he didn't refuse. He protected her, kissed her. In just a few steps, their lips never parted. I wiped away my tears. I'd seen enough. Seeing them about to engage in illicit behavior in the secluded spot by the fountain, I opened the car door and walked towards them, step by step. Amidst increasingly high-pitched moans, I called out loudly, "Marcus." The gasps and heavy breathing instantly stopped. I actually rubbed my ears, thinking I'd gone deaf. Chloe hastily pulled her clothes together and shrank behind Marcus. Her hands awkwardly covered the exposed skin on her chest. Marcus's face was ashen, his back stiff, frozen in place, not moving. I glanced at the time, tilted my head, and kindly asked, "Can't you stand up? Do you want me to call security for you?" Chloe's tears streamed down, her mouth pouted, and she whined softly, "Marcus." Marcus looked as if he'd been slapped awake, frowning as he pulled her up. "Go back first." Chloe refused, clinging to his coat and not letting go. I tooted. Marcus visibly flinched, then pushed her away impatiently. "Go. What's the rush?" I said with a smile, "Miss Chloe, right? How many months along are you?" Marcus abruptly turned to shield her, his eyes red, his voice trembling violently. Grace, you. Please don't ask. Chloe hid behind him. Her wet eyes were full of blatant triumph and excitement. Seizing the opportunity, she spoke. Just 3 months yesterday. I softly repeated, yesterday. Just 3 months. A string snapped in my mind. What sudden repentance? What self-reflection or guilt? Marcus's flawless act for the past half-month was simply because she was still in her early pregnancy. Not because he couldn't let me go, not because he wanted to return to the family, but because the child wasn't stable yet. Afraid he couldn't control himself, he was forced to keep his distance from his mistress. I stared at Marcus, a smile twisting on my face. Satisfied? He reached out to embrace me, frantically shaking his head in denial. It's really not what you think. I'll explain everything when we get home. I pushed him away, my face devoid of expression. He stood there, helpless, his knees slightly bent. Chloe rushed forward, pushed me aside, and stood in front of him, like a mother hen protecting her chick. What are you doing? He's begged you like this, why are you still so relentless? They stood side by side, as if I were the mistress. I'm the one who's going to bear his child. All the empire he's worked so hard to build, is he just supposed to give it away because you can't have children? Have you ever considered his feelings? She pressed closer, her tone sharp. You only demand his loyalty, demand high understanding for you. Have you ever understood him? If you loved him as much as I do, you would have granted us your blessing and divorced him a long time ago. I looked up at Marcus. Is that right? Is that what you think too? He stared at me intently, his expression sorrowful, opening his mouth but unable to utter a single word. Chloe seemed to gain more confidence. She lifted her chin, her tone growing more triumphant. I know him better than you do, Grace. Flaunting your marriage certificate at me? Huh, what good is that? What can it really do? A marriage without love, like yours, is a tomb. Whether you're a trophy wife or just a regular woman, the one who can provide an heir is the one who truly matters. Slap. Slap. She didn't finish her sentence. I raised my hand and landed 2 satisfying slaps across her face. Was I talking to you? Her entire body was knocked askew by my blows. 2 distinct palm prints immediately appeared on her face. Her bangs fell over her face, and it took her a while to recover. Marcus was also stunned. He frowned, about to speak. I shot him a cold glance, cutting him off. When elders are speaking, children shouldn't interrupt. Were you not taught manners by your parents? Then I took out a tissue and slowly wiped my hands. If you want to be a hen, go ahead and be one yourself. Don't compare me to you. I find you disgusting. My gaze returned to Marcus's face. In 2 days, at Eastwood, we'll sign the divorce papers. You wouldn't want the child you've longed for to be born an illegitimate child, despised by everyone, would you? I scoffed lightly, then tucked the tissue I'd used to wipe my hands into his disheveled sweater collar. This time, don't bother with your phony display of affection. Your act is terrible. Truly, it's disgusting. I sent the photos to Sarah. She examined them for a moment. Strange, why does she look so familiar? Hey, from certain angles, she even looks like you? What a twisted preference. Marcus has, did he specifically find a doppelganger? I took a gulp of iced wine, a humorless smile on my face. Let's maximize the asset division. He's stubborn, I don't know how long he'll drag this out. Sarah's face was grim, caught red-handed, and he still won't admit it? Marcus was that kind of man. He had a unique excuse for everything. He could make white seem black, and somehow, people would always believe him. Don't worry, Grace. Sarah's voice was firm, her eyes shining, giving me strength. I'll make sure we win this fight decisively. I nodded with a faint smile, sincerely thanking her. Thank you, Sarah. If it weren't for you, I truly wouldn't know what to do. It's mutual, isn't it? If you hadn't spoken up for me among those socialite circles back then, I might have retreated into being a stay-at-home wife. The familiar mechanical sound of the garage door opening echoed. Marcus was back. I pulled my suitcase and walked out. He emerged from the elevator, his tie loosened, a bright red lipstick stain on the side of his neck. Seeing me, his footsteps halted, and he stood still. I told you, we're signing in 2 days. I hope Mr. Marcus won't back out. He blocked the elevator door. After a moment, his Adam's apple bobbed, and his voice was hoarse. Grace, can you just listen to me? He slid down the wall, clutching his head, on the verge of a breakdown. I really wanted a child. Mom was hospitalized for a cerebral thrombosis last time, and her room was filled with grandchildren, but she was all alone. Didn't even have anyone to talk to. What's more, if someone hadn't been with her when she had the stroke, she wouldn't have been saved even a few minutes later. He looked up at me, his eyes red. I'm increasingly scared of the future. Our parents have us, but what about us when we're old? I never told you about the pressure from my parents, and the board meeting is also making early arrangements. I didn't tell you these things because I was afraid you'd feel guilty, afraid you'd be sensitive. But I'm tired too. He grasped my hand, burying his face in my palm, rubbing against it dependently. Grace. I never thought about divorce. I just wanted a child of my own blood. I didn't betray you. From the very beginning, I intended to have a child through her but without her involvement as a parent. His voice grew softer and softer, as if he too found these words too absurd to utter, even. Chloe, it's because she looks a bit like you. I thought the child born might resemble both of us more. The light in the entryway flickered, making my mind numb. Do you have any shame, Marcus? I watched him with cold eyes, saying each word distinctly. She's only 20. At that age, she could even be your daughter. But I don't have a daughter. I don't. He suddenly roared, his chest heaving violently, and a flicker of resentment towards me flashed in his eyes. Do you think I don't know? He stared intensely at me, a cold sneer twisting his lips, but tears streamed down uncontrollably. You've been waiting for me to cheat, haven't you? So you'd have an excuse to get a divorce, a legitimate reason to get rid of me, and never have to love me again, right? What exactly did I do wrong? He let out a low growl, his emotions close to breaking point. I've loved you for 16 years, and just because I wanted a child, just because I wanted a complete family with you, you're going to deny me, abandon me? He cornered me against the wall, burying his face in the crook of my neck, sobbing, feeling utterly lost. Grace, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? I've done everything. I really do love you, why won't you believe me? I let go, ceasing to struggle, letting him hold me tightly. At that moment, I finally saw through him. Marcus was a complete egoist. He labeled all his selfish, treacherous, and abusive actions with tags like "for your own good" and "for the family," using moral blackmail to intensify my guilt, making me believe that this outcome was all for my sake, rationalizing his cheating, rationalizing all his absurd behavior. I stared at the numbers on the elevator, my voice calm. Love me? So you slept with someone else out of love for me? Marcus, are you also going to tell me that when you were with her, your mind was still on me? He slammed his fist against the wall in frustration, then turned and paced anxiously for a few steps. I already told you, I did it for this family. Believe it or not. He wiped away a tear, as if he couldn't keep up the act, and scrutinized me with a slight frown. What about you, though? What have you done to maintain this increasingly stale marriage? Do you know how many nights I lay awake, watching you sleep with your back to me? The guilt suffocated me. Everyone looked at me with that gaze, as if they were all saying, "You've wronged Grace, you've wronged Grace." What do they know? What right do they have to judge me? I worked desperately to earn money, to make amends. When we first got married, I gave you a $3,000 gold necklace, and you wore it for 8 years. Now I give you a $20 million bracelet, and you don't even spare it a glance. Heh. Have I changed, or are you just too greedy? He stood backlit, his expression obscured. It's tiring to always be the only one making an effort. What had I done for this marriage? During the years his career was soaring, he was swamped every day. I wanted to help, but he always smiled and said I wouldn't understand. Unconvinced, I pursued an MBA. I started learning about investments, analyzing financial reports, and gradually became capable of conversing with his business partners at dinner parties. My peers all had children. I felt uneasy, afraid he would be lonely, afraid he would stray. I tried every means to enrich our lives. I learned skills, anything he liked, I would learn: baking, rock climbing, fencing, tennis, golf. Even when work was exhausting, I insisted on working out to maintain my figure. No matter what he talked about, I could follow along. I poured all my effort into becoming his ideal wife. I feared that my infertility would, one day, become his reason for disdain, even though I was the victim. But eventually, every relationship enters a period of weariness. Everything I did was in vain. He started traveling frequently for work. Unfamiliar female faces began to appear around him. A woman in a business suit, her waist cinched, would knock on my door. "Mr. Marcus drank too much, I'm here to pick up his change of clothes." I became less and less myself. Sensitive, irritable, hysterical. We had massive arguments. In the 10th year of our marriage, I finally brought up divorce again. That night, we verbally tore each other apart, uttering the cruelest words, stripping away all pretense of civility. But he still refused to agree. He leaned disconsolately against the floor-to-ceiling window, lighting his first cigarette in 10 years right in front of me. Ash flaked down, and he gazed tiredly out the window, speaking softly, "Grace, you are my responsibility. I can't divorce you. No longer I love you." I had become his inescapable responsibility. To hell with responsibility. This was my third time bringing up divorce. And the last time. I lowered my gaze and straightened my wrinkled coat. I glanced at the suitcase he was still desperately hiding behind him. Never mind. Out with the old, in with the new. I'm not asking for your opinion, I'm informing you. Given your attitude, I'll have my secretary send the signed agreement directly to your office. See you at the county courthouse for divorce filings in a week. He still tried to hold on to me. But I was truly sick of his crocodile tears and false pretense. "Marcus, let's part ways amicably, and I might still respect your grace. In this relationship, I only care about two things. One is the past you, which, sadly, is rotten to the core. The other myself. I no longer love you, so you can't hurt me." I paused, my gaze slowly sweeping over him. "But you're different, you have a weakness. I'll give you 1 week, otherwise, who knows if Chloe's baby will still be there." His face suddenly flushed crimson. "Grace. You." I curved my eyes, gently reminding him, "As your ex-wife, one last reminder, the day your mother had her stroke, you weren't with her. If my calculations aren't wrong, at that time you were with Chloe, conceiving new life. I hope that when you fall ill in the future, your so-called bloodline will be by your bedside, and not like your mother, who only had her husband. Forget grandchildren, her own son wasn't even there." The divorce process went more smoothly than I expected. Perhaps he cared too much about that child. Marcus merely glanced at the divorce agreement Sarah had drawn up before signing it. After completing the procedure at the county courthouse for divorce filings, the staff reminded us that the divorce certificate would be available in a month. I nodded. He stood behind me, looking as if he wanted to speak but hesitated. "What is it?" He stared hesitantly at the bracelet on my hand. "This. Can I have it?" I didn't say anything. He seemed to think he was being too cruel. This was the anniversary gift he had given me. Going back right after the divorce felt completely inappropriate. "I'll pay a premium for it. 25 million, is that enough?" I sighed. "Chloe truly is lucky. So young, and you're already throwing millions at her." Marcus's face turned ashen. He rushed to explain, "It was my mother, I wasn't interested." I cut him off, handing him the vintage sapphire and diamond bracelet. "Send the money to my previous account. Thank you for your business. If anything else of mine catches your eye, contact my secretary." Sarah was waiting for me in a parking spot by the road. As soon as I settled in, she glanced at Marcus, who was still standing there, lost in thought. "You gave him the vintage sapphire and diamond bracelet back?" I shook my cell phone. "Sold it for a high price. But you really liked that vintage sapphire and diamond bracelet, didn't you?" I smiled brightly. Honestly, I'd grown tired of wearing it. That was a vintage sapphire and diamond bracelet my mother gave me as a dowry. Later, when Marcus's company needed capital, I had your brother sell off a lot of things. This piece was originally appraised at only a few million. Perhaps had just gotten pregnant then, and Marcus's guilt toward me was at its peak. I was only curious and looked at it a few times, and he impulsively bought it. I was surprised he gave me this for our wedding anniversary. Now, he's willing to buy it back for 25 million, so I'll net almost 30 million. Think of how many better vintage sapphire and diamond bracelets I could buy. Sarah gently touched my face, her gaze soft. "Grace, if you're sad, it's okay to cry." I paused, surprised. After a few seconds of thought, I said softly, "I've been preparing myself mentally for so many years, so it's not really that hard. I chose Marcus myself. He loved me, he was good to me, all those years, it was real. I can't blame my past self for believing in love just because of this outcome. Life changes too much, no one can guarantee they'll be dealt a good hand. But once you're at the gambling table, you need the courage to face the consequences." I wiped away her sympathetic tears, smiling with a sense of calm liberation. The biggest lesson I've learned in middle age is to let go and forgive yourself. 10 days before the divorce was finalized at the county courthouse for divorce filings, Marcus and I ran into each other at a dinner party. I was talking with Robert, the client's CEO. Marcus stood behind me, holding a wine glass, observing silently. Just as I finished expressing my views on a project, he spoke softly, "I didn't realize you had such a broad vision." Robert laughed. Teasing him, "Mr. Marcus, you're not keeping a trophy wife, she's clearly a powerhouse." Marcus took a sip of his wine, his narrow eyes half closed as he stared at me, then let out a deep hmm. A shiver ran down my spine. I leaned forward, clinked glasses with Robert, and drained my wine in one gulp. With all due respect, Mr. Robert, Mr. Marcus and I finalized our divorce quite some time ago. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Marcus's expression visibly stiffened. Robert chuckled awkwardly, trying to smooth things over. Oh dear, my apologies. Ms. Grace, please don't mind my slip of the tongue. I knew he was only engaging with me because of Marcus. Before, as Mrs. Marcus, I never showed my face at these kinds of events. Even in a professional capacity, I was, at most, just a decorative accessory. But tonight, I was the lead negotiator. I had my own value, my own seat at the table. So, the collaboration we were just discussing, of course, we'll sign. Robert laughed heartily and personally called a server to refill my glass. You're about my daughter's age, and at your age, to dare to separate from a husband worth hundreds of billions, your courage and resolve are truly remarkable. With that kind of spirit, I have to sign this cooperation. When I emerged from the restroom, Marcus was leaning against the wall, waiting for me. I walked straight past him, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist. His eyes were filled with a complex emotion. I can't forget you. I've been thinking about you constantly these past few days. My secretary said you'd be here tonight, so I specifically canceled my business trip and rushed back, just to see you. He gave a self-deprecating laugh, his Adam's apple bobbing. I thought I could let go, but the moment I saw you, I knew I still loved you. I love you more than I realized. I don't want a divorce. Grace, please don't divorce me. His voice dropped, his final words catching in a slight, trembling sob. In a side hall, way where anyone could walk by, Marcus was begging me, his voice humble, completely devoid of dignity. The old me could never stand to see him so vulnerable. Every time we argued, no matter how big his mistake, if he just said I'm sorry in a low voice with reddened eyes, I'd immediately soften. But now, I raised my phone and snapped a picture. He froze. I flipped the screen, revealing a conspicuous red lipstick mark behind his ear. Before getting carried away, did you spare a thought for your unborn child? I scoffed indifferently. A clean break with a finalized divorce agreement was the last shred of dignity I allowed us both. Stop clinging to me so disgustingly. If there's a next time, I promise you'll pay the price. My merciless words wounded Marcus's pride. Aside from the day our divorce was finalized at the county courthouse for divorce filings, I hadn't seen him in 3 months. I thought everything had settled, but I was wrong. While organizing work documents, I opened my personal email account, which I hadn't used in a long time. That's when I discovered that since mid-last year, a strange email address had been sending me harassing emails every few days. Most of them were explicit accounts of her life. I scrolled down, all the way to the earliest one. The subject line read, "Sister, your cat died, didn't it? Do you know how?" The body read, "I purposely opened the door and let her run into the street. She was dragging her injured leg, trying to crawl home before she died." So cute. Attached was a picture of my ragdoll cat, curled up in the middle of the road, covered in blood. My stomach churned. I rushed to the bathroom and dry heaved over the toilet. My hand trembling, I dialed Sarah's number. You said Chloe looked familiar last time, why?" "Oh," Sarah hesitated for a few seconds, then suddenly exclaimed, "I remember. Last year, when you had that party, I saw her. She was lurking suspiciously by your back door, and I even stopped her tea." "Oh, ask what she was doing." "She said she was property management. Because she resembled you somewhat, I paid extra attention." My nails dug hard into my palm, blood slowly seeping from the crescent-shaped marks. "She let Lewis out. It was her. Lewis was a birthday gift from Marcus. We'd had her for 5 years. When she was found, she still had the new yellow bow I'd bought her." Sarah got news from Ethan. Marcus's company recently had significant debt disputes. They'd expanded too aggressively, and their assets weren't liquidating quickly enough. Now, the company's cash flow was nearly depleted. Already, agitated people were protesting outside the company building, holding banners and forming human walls. I decided to cut ties clean. I replied to that person's email, "A week from now, at the board meeting, he'll be staying with me." Then I blocked her. Around 2 in the morning, I called Marcus on an old cell phone. I was at the gambling table once again. This time, I was determined to win. A deep breathing sound came from the receiver. He was waiting for me to speak. I stared at the blurry reflection on the TV screen and gave a slight smirk. "Did I disturb your rest?" He cleared his throat, followed by the click of a lighter. "No. What's wrong?" "Marcus," I whispered his name. I miss Lewis. In the quiet night, my suppressed sobs sounded heartbreaking. I dreamed she was playing with the voice buttons you bought. She loved the treats button the most. You said she ate too much and wanted to remove that button, but then she just lay on your chest and wouldn't let you sleep. My words broke into fragments. Don't cry, Grace. Marcus had a deep affection for Lewis. When he was a child, he was chased by a dog, and a stray cat from his hometown saved him. After getting his own cat, he absolutely doted on Lewis as if she were his own child. Lewis is gone, and you're gone too. Now I'm all alone. My voice was tender, but my expression was terrifyingly cold. When I woke up the next day, I found the call hadn't disconnected. Every day after that, Marcus would send a few texts. Like, are you asleep? Or, it's cold today, put on more clothes. Until the day of the board meeting. I arrived early at the company building. The platform offered a wide view, and from there, I could clearly see the intersection. I timed it perfectly and called Marcus. From the other end of the line, Chloe's sharp voice yelled, "Why are you wearing headphones? Can't you say what you have to say in front of me? Are you busy?" I asked gently. Then I'll contact you another day. No, it's fine. Go ahead. I hesitated, then asked, actually, I just wanted to thank you. Thanks to you, I'm feeling much better, so I'd like to treat you to dinner. Okay, send me the time and place. The next second, Chloe's voice suddenly shot up. Dinner? You promised to spend today with me. Which bitch are you having dinner with? Grace, is that you? You're absolutely shameless, still after another woman's husband even after getting divorced. Enough. Are you done yet? What did I say wrong? She is a bitch. You're yelling at me for her? I don't want to live anymore. Stop the car. I want to go home. I heard the sound of her yanking open the car door, followed by a system alarm. Are you insane? This is a main road. Chloe shrieked hysterically, I'll take your son with me to die, and I'll make you regret for the rest of your life that you defended that old hag today. I held my breath, looking towards the familiar silver-gray range not far away. It veered erratically onto the service road. The adjacent underground parking entrance had long been blocked by debt collectors. But today, Marcus seemed to have forgotten. The car sped up, only braking abruptly when it neared the flower bed. Before it even fully stopped, Chloe, heavily pregnant, jumped out of the car and frantically pulled open the driver's side door. Marcus was yanked out, running a hand through his hair. In annoyance, practically shoved into the passenger seat by her. The car remained motionless, and bits of their argument could be heard even through the glass. Not only did I see it, but the people who had been waiting downstairs also recognized Marcus's license plate. They swarmed the car like sharks sensing blood in the water. Chloe panicked, actually attempting to hit the gas and ram her way out. But the steering wheel wasn't straightened, and with one hard press of the accelerator, the car shot directly towards the median. Marcus snatched the wheel, the car swerved sharply, and the passenger side crashed head-on into a large tree, snapping it. Neither of them was wearing a seatbelt. Chloe was flung through the windshield. By the time I arrived at the hospital, she was still in surgery. The baby was premature and had been rushed to the ICU. Chloe was still in critical condition from severe bleeding. Marcus was in slightly better condition. The vintage sapphire and diamond bracelet he had bought from me was pressed against his left chest, shielding him from some of the impact. It had saved his life, at least. However, his right leg had been impaled by a broken steel guardrail, leading to severe tetanus infection. To survive, he would need an amputation. I felt no surprise. All of this was within my predictions. In fact, I wasn't entirely satisfied. I turned and asked Marcus's secretary to take me to see the baby. He hesitated, looking as if he wanted to say something. It wasn't until I saw the incubator that I understood his apprehension. It was a blue-eyed baby with Down. When woke up, I was sitting by the sofa, looking at a weekly business report. He stared intently at me, his gaze unwavering, for an unknown duration. I put away my cell phone, walked over, and adjusted the height of his bed. Congratulations on your new son. He reached out to take my hand, but I stepped back half a pace and sat down on the visitor's chair. Chloe was discharged 2 days ago. And left. The baby is still in the incubator, and the secretary has gone to pick him up. He frowned, seemingly not understanding. Although the doctor had advised against overstimulating a recently awakened patient, I couldn't help myself. I leaned back in the chair, watching the secretary push open the door and approach with the swaddled baby, step by step. My voice was as soft as a ghost's. Chloe set her sights on you mid-last year. Killing wasn't enough for her. The secretary finally drew near. He glanced at me, then, with a look of resignation, gently placed the baby into Marcus's outstretched arms. I stood up and smoothed the baby's cap. My fingertips gently pulled back the hood, revealing his entire face. Then, I turned and stared at Marcus. Now, she's killed your son too. Marcus stared at the child in his arms, utterly unresponsive. Blue eyes. Sparse hair. A low nasal bridge. Not a single trace of his genes? After leaving the hospital, I completely cut off contact with Marcus. I quit my job, packed my bags, and flew to Southern for 3 months. On the day I returned to the country, Sarah came to pick me up at the airport. I laughed and threw myself into her arms, lifting her and spinning her around a few times. "Oh my God, Grace!" Sarah shrieked in my ear. "You look so dashing." I was wearing a t-shirt and low-rise jeans, my short hair dyed a light reddish brown, and my exposed skin a bright tan. When I smiled, all 8 teeth were perfectly white. "Have you been having flings nonstop these past 3 months? You absolutely have to tell me all about it tonight. You're making me drool, you don't look 40 at all." I tossed my hair, raising an eyebrow with a smile. "Who says I'm 40? I'm 41, not 40. On the way back, I was dozing in the passenger seat, but I kept feeling the person next to me repeatedly turn to look at me. I found it amusing and told her to pull over off the overpass. "Just tell me what's on your mind. It's not safe to drive like this." She bit her lip. "I'm afraid it will upset you." My gaze was calm. She said seriously, "Last week, Marcus set himself on fire in the house where you two used to live." I sat up straight. "He didn't die. He has 80% burns." My brow twitched. That, I hadn't expected. She continued. "After was discharged, he quit his job, solely focused on finding Chloe. All the money he'd given her for tuition and living expenses abroad had been spent on male escorts and smoking weed. Even every cent meant for prenatal checkups had been squandered. From start to finish, she had only used Marcus as an ATM. After the accident, she had a hysterectomy. She ran off without even seeing the baby. Marcus spent 2 months tracking her down in her hometown and stabbed her to death on the spot. That same night, he flew back here and, holding our divorce certificate, set himself on fire in the house." I lowered my head, saying nothing. Sarah carefully opened a bottle of water for me and tentatively asked, "Are you okay? After so many years together, do you want to go see him?" I looked at a photo of Louis on my cell phone screen. She was tilting her head, looking at the camera, a colorful butterfly perched on her left ear. I was crouching behind her, making a funny face. This was Marcus's favorite photo. I took a deep breath. Sunlight streamed through the windshield, falling on my face and on the empty, wide, and unobstructed road ahead. I gently shook my head. Wiping away a tear from the corner of my eye, I whispered, "Sarah, today, you should really let me spoil you. To celebrate my true freedom." Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.